Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you are doing well. In the previous video, we saw how to add an image to our QT application and also how to add the icon for this window. Right? Let's run this once. Just a minute. Yeah, this icon, right? The Discord icon. Now, as you can see, this application is blank, like it's a white screen, right? So in this video, we'll try to fill this one. Like we want to add a background to this, right? So we'll do that. Now, to add a background to this, what you need to do is you need to add a component called a rectangle. Now, what's a rectangle? It's a rectangle. So I'll tell you what this is. Let's say this is our window, right? This is our application window. Now, what's a rectangle? It's a component. Now, inside this, you can either add a background color or you can use a rectangle, and inside this, you can add a text or a button or an image or a button, anything, right? So this is a component. One of its purpose is to add color to something, right? So let's see how to do that. Now with rectangle, we'll fill this background with a color. Now you can add a color called red or green or blue. Like some of the standard colors have a name, you can do that, right? Or you can add a hexadecimal code. Like for example, I want to add this color. This one looks good, so I'll add this one. So you can see there is a hash, right? Because this is hexadecimal. Now if you hover over it, you can see the color, right? Now if you try to run the application now, you'll see there is an issue. Like you won't be seeing a red color right now because this rectangle needs a width and a height, right? See, it's empty because right now this rectangle needs a width and a height. It does not fill anything right now. Every item needs a width and a height, right? So let's give it something. I wanted to fill the parent, like fill the entire window. So I'll give the width and height of this window. Let's run it now. Yeah, you can see that the window is filled, right, with the color red. Now there's a problem with this. Since I've manually set the width and height, if I try to change the windows width and height, right, you will see that the rectangle is fixed but the window changes, right? Now that's a problem. Like this is a problem, right? So how to fix it? See, when we try to manually set the width and height, there is an issue. I want this to change dynamically. Like if the window's width and height changes, I want this to also change, right? So one way of doing this is I have given an ID of root window to it. Now what's an ID? Now this is a component. This rectangle is a component. In the future, I might add a button, right? Now this is also a component, right? Now you can call it a component, you can call it an element, you can call it anything, right? Now how to uniquely identify it? Like how can this rectangle know what is this button, right? How to identify this button? Let's say there is also another button, right? Now how can this rectangle identify which is which, right? So for that we need an ID. Now all the components should have a unique ID. Now we have named this root window, right? So what we can do is we can say this width will be equal to root window dot width. Now what is root window dot width? It is this one. Now the height will also be equal to root window dot height. Now you might say, hey, this is exactly the same as typing 640 and 480, right? But window has a flexibility, right? We can increase the width and height while running the application. Now you'll see that the rectangle adjusts itself with the width and height of the window, right? It will adjust its width and height with respect to this window. Let's see how. See, cool, right? Now there's a catch here, right? This is not a proper way of doing it. Like this is a correct way to do it, but I think there's a better way of doing this, and that's called anchors. Now it's anchors dot fill parent. Now what's a parent? The parent of this component is nothing but the component which is just above it, like which is just one level above it. For example, this rectangle is a child of window, right? Now let's say inside this rectangle there is a component called text. Inside the text there is a button. Inside the button there is an image, and uh, let's say there is also another button, right? Now, what is the parent of this image? Yes, it's the button. What is the parent of this button? It's the text. What is the parent of text? It's rectangle. What is the parent of this button? It's also text, right? See, this button and this button both are siblings, but the parent of this button will be this text, because this component is just above this button. Like this component covers this button, right? That's and this is the closest component that covers the button. Like for example, like what do you mean by that? Let's say this is a button, right? Now this is a text. This is another rectangle, right? This text also covers this button. This rectangle also covers this button, but text is the immediate one which covers it, right? So you can think of it like that, right? Now, I hope you know what a parent is. Now, now see, obviously you know what fill means, right? It's to like it's saying that this rectangle has to fill this window, right? Now, what is anchors? It's a tricky concept. I'll teach you this in the next lecture. But anchors is a very powerful property to align items with respect to another item, right? Uh, I'll teach you this in the next lecture, but I hope this part is clear. Right? For example, if you want to change the color to something else, like let's say this one, you can also do it. And now if you see, this will become purple in color, right? I hope that's clear. Also, you can like add an ID to this rectangle. Let's call this rectangle background, right? And I hope you know what this is. Now, if I call it root window, right, it will throw an error because root window already exists. There cannot be two of the same ID. So I hope you're clear with what is ID, what is parent, right? And I'll explain to you what anchors is. But I hope this part is clear. What does fill mean? Fill obviously means that this rectangle will fill its parent, and its parent is this window, right? So I hope this part is clear, and I'll see you in the next lecture where I'll explain anchors properly.